Wambuzi tariza mumira, you deserve a photo shoot every hour. It's your hour. Camera, lights, flash.
Tick, strike up, pose.
Oh, swag, drippy, click, strike up, pose.
Hi guys, and welcome back to season 2 of our this has been a long time coming, and we're so glad to be able to even come back to you guys with the season 2. So thank you so much for the support that you gave us in season 1. Thank you so much for listening to us, being open to us and our opinions and our views and our guests and the different topics that we ventured into. Today we have 2 special guests with us. Before I tell you the topic, I'll just let them introduce themselves. Maybe you'll get an idea of the topic from their introductions. So we'll start with you.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Florida Mapieto, and I'm the communications officer at Adult Rape Clinic. Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Tina Maka, and I am the founder of Feminist Voice in Zimbabwe.
And I'm Vera.
Right. I was actually about to get to that. I was about to be like, and I'm Jordan, and I'm the one of the hosts of our podcast, and obviously Vera.
Yes.
So yeah, Vera jumped the gun, you know.
I was like, maybe you forgot about me.
No, I
We have such cool guests today,
I could never forget about you. But yeah, so the topic today is rape culture and sexual assault, and so we're just gonna dive into that and basically explore all that can be explored in the time that we have.
Yeah.
So I hope you're excited about this conversation. I know it's a bit of a trigger. So trigger warning for anyone who's watching who might not want to be a part of this conversation, because I understand that this is a very, very sensitive topic. So if you are someone who does not want to be part of this, completely understand. But if you do, and if you know anyone that would be part of this, then join them in on the fun. Well, I don't know how fun it'll be, but the fun. So yeah, let's dive right into it with just like everyone, all of us just giving a basic definition of what we understand about rape culture.
We'll start with you.
Yeah.
Why do I have to start? Okay, I think rape culture is everybody here might have an understanding of what rape is, but the culture part of it now is an environment, simply put, which enables or sort of allows rape to prevail. So there's so many things that whether it's our traditions as a country, whether it's Zimbabwean, it's a Zimbabwean thing or it's a South African thing, or
Right.
but it's those things, little things that we do or that we perceive to be norms and predominant perspectives that we have that sort of let things like rape get away, or just people allow those things to happen.
Right.
So that's the culture part of it from my end.
I think I'll like kind of take what she said as like normalizing rape. That's what I feel like rape culture is. It's like when we normalize it, it's a thing that, you know, happens, like, oh, like, you know, a child learns how to walk, oh, rape happens, you know, it's just it's something that happens, you know, we're not trying to correct it, we're not trying to prevent it, we've just normalized you know, rape. That's what I feel like rape culture is.
I would say that it's like harmful societal perceptions that basically sanitize rape. It's not so bad.
Right.
It happens. It's oh no, no. It's not really. There's always something. There's always a reason why, which takes away from how harmful and how horrible it is.
Right. I think for myself, I'll just say I think it's a systematic thing. It's something that has been systemically like perpetuated over time, historically, politically. It's, I think, the way in, like, even socially, it's the way that society reacts to rape allegations, to the idea of rape, the concept of rape, you know, even just the comprehensive sexuality education and the way that we are educated about sex, consent, and, you know, just sexuality education in general, and how it affects how we go about society, you know. So I think this is the perfect place for us to just begin to unpack, you know, rape culture and just what are some things, like, for people who are listening to us and are like, okay, we hear your definitions, but we still don't understand what rape culture is. Maybe we can give some examples.
Okay, I think in Zimbabwe, I always use this perfect example. A few years ago, I don't know if you remember, there was a clip that went around with social media. Those young boys that had raped, I think it was a group of women, and one of the catchy statements from what they were saying out of everything was "No batali pie."
Oh yeah.
And it almost became a thing. Like people even made jokes about it, and it was a statement. Like it became part of our slang. Like people would actually greet each other, "No batali pie," and by making jokes out of that situation, all the attention was missed on what about the survivors, what about the people that actually were assaulted by these boys, because they made fun of it. It was a rape joke that actually went viral, and people forgot about why the statement was even formed. So it's a very good example, because I think everything else we might say the serious part, the reason I'm sensitive personally about rape jokes is because people then say you're being too sensitive, you're being petty, let people laugh. But outside of that, does anyone even know amongst us what happened to these ladies? What is the case now? Where are they? Did they receive any help? Nobody cared because of a rape joke that was taken from a situation. So I think that is one. And then objectification of women in Zimbabwe. It's like everywhere you go, you have people saying it's okay to comment about a woman's body, about a woman's legs, like you have no ownership of them. It's like you're just talking about a car, and it's so normalized. Like even sometimes you do it and you don't even think about it, because everyone around you thinks it's normal to say those things. And then, well, I think I won't talk about the political aspect of things, but maybe systematic. Like we've got right now, as a young lady, you get a job. Typically, nobody's going to think that you got it straightforward because of your qualifications.
Especially if it's a higher powered job.
Because our society has sort of accepted that a young woman can't just flourish because of their accomplishments. It has to be connected with some sort of sexual favors that were done. In those little three things that I mentioned, there is a lot of rape culture that happens, and people have normalized to comment on those things. Like, those Zimbabwe. So yeah.
I love that. I love those examples. I love the fact that you brought up the objectification, because we actually did an episode on this in our previous season, Two Naked Girls on a Podcast. And we're basically speaking about how the way that we dress, it kind of gives people this perception that they think that they can comment on our bodies and say you are handing yourself over to men to like be raped. The way the shortness of your skirt or how much skin you're showing is making you more perceptible to being raped. So I love that. I love those things.
There's even a recent episode that Bus Stop that Bus Stop TV did, where they were basically playing out a situation where a girl gets raped because she was wearing a short skirt. She went to visit the boyfriend at his house and things like that. So I think, even just those questions, sometimes when I've heard so many stories about people who go and report cases of rape at the police station, and you're asked, what were you wearing? What does it matter what I was wearing? If I was butt naked, if I was wearing a sheet, if I was wearing like 20 layers of clothes, it shouldn't matter what I was wearing. What the real issue is that, I was assaulted, like I was raped, someone violated my body. And I think definitely it always comes into play with, the issue of like the way women dress, and you shouldn't dress like this, or when you were dressed that way you were asking for it. So it really is such an unfortunate thing that it's still such a big issue about how women dress, that it always has to come down to you were asking for it, you're dressing
respectability politics. Do you have any other examples that
No, I think like just that whole thing that it's normal for women to be asked like, what were you wearing, why were you there, like when you're asked about, like when you report a rape case, right? A lot of the times people, they take away from your experience because of, they say that you put yourself in a situation that allowed you to be raped. And I never think that that's, you're never putting yourself in a situation that allows you to have any bad experience in life. Oh, you were drinking, so what did you expect? Oh, you were hanging out with guys, so what did you expect? I should be able to go out to a club. I should be able to hang around with my male friends and not have that fear of, you know, of being raped, or if I do have that experience of having to now justify why it was rape to, you know, police, to parents, to, you know, other people. Like a lot of the times people be like, but why did you go there? Or, oh, but why were you dressed that way? Oh, why were you drinking with guys? Like, you know, things like that. So
there's a lot of ownership of women in our spaces. African culture sort of does that. Like, as a woman, your body is not yours. So everything that's is around you, you're being told that you're dressing not for yourself, you're dressing for another person, how they view, how they perceive you.
And the crazy thing is, someone will be entitled to your body, but still, when something goes wrong, you have to bear the burden of explaining why it happened.
It's still your fault.
That victim blaming, and like what you were saying about people will be like, oh, so many women are only in their jobs because they were sexually coerced. But Transparency International actually did an entire like research about sexual corruption in Zimbabwe, and like over half of the women that are in the positions they're in are sexually harassed or were sexually harassed to get that job. And the problem is not that women are sleeping with people to get jobs. The problem is that women cannot get jobs if they do not sleep with people, because they are literally being coerced into these things. And like, it's so insidious in nature. Like you're saying, there was just like this joke, and all of a sudden, you know, we've forgotten about these women, and suddenly, like you've been reduced literally to just this joke, and then it passes, and it makes the next joke okay, and the next joke okay, and you know, it leads into the next joke, and it's just it's so toxic. Like it's like a cancer.
It's a cycle.
A
vicious cycle.
It never ends.
Right. Do you have any examples you'd like to share?
I think the police station one, but maybe I can get into that when we get into the justice system.
All right, okay. We're going to get back to that. Even you bringing up the cultural and traditional aspect, that's something we're going to dive into a little bit later on. But I think I want to dive into the historical and political point of views when it comes to rape culture. I think historically, let's just take it from the standpoint of when people would win wars, they would make sure not to kill the women and the children, because that was what they would use. That was them pillaging the land, the spoils. And when they would come into a new territory, they would rape the women. We've read this how many times in our history books have we read them taking the women as their own wives, or like taking them, you know, using these women as something to enjoy once they've won the war, you know. So it's, women have been used as a weapon historically. If we even look at our own sphere of existence, you know, Zimbabwe, there was just a case of those 3 MDC women who allegedly, I'm not going to say that they were or they were not, but allegedly were raped by state officers, allegedly. Keep saying allegedly. Because it hasn't been tried in a court of law, and I don't think it'll ever see its day in court, because of just the way that this political system is set up, the way that our law is set up, the way our justice system is set up. I just think, those are things that, if we even look at South Africa, so I was just saying to you earlier on, the fact that someone like Jacob Zuma, who is a known sex offender, an admitted rapist, self-admitted, is someone who could become a president. That just shows us that these things don't matter in our society. You can be a full-blown rapist and still rise to the ranks of a presidential candidate and win, you know? So
look at Trump even. Like, Trump made that statement when he was like, oh,
grabbing pussy.
And you're like,
you know?
And people, what makes it so crazy is that women also were our own worst enemies, because, well, they're the same people, women are the same people who are voting for Jacob Zuma, or who are voting for Trump to be a president, or who are minimalizing people's experiences. I can write onto that, oh my gosh, I was raped, la la la, and then you'll actually have other women ostracizing me for my experience, you know? So that's just what really upsets me sometimes, is that women, we can't even support each other. We can't even come together for each other to be like, okay, this is what's happened. Let's all stand up against this, and let's actually say something about it. You know? Let's do something about it. Instead, we'll be like, oh wow, like what was she wearing? Guys, really, is that is that a thing? Is that really an issue about what the person was wearing and things like that? I remember we had like a few years ago we did an experiment where we went to 4th Street and we had a guy wear like provocative shorts and whatever, and you know, we were, as the girls, we were the ones like, oh, no, Becca, like grabbing his legs and everything. Because we were just doing an experiment, a social experiment to see how people would react. Because of the issue of that girl who had been stripped at 4th Street, so we're like, no, if it's a reverse situation, will people defend the guy or will they do the same thing, join in and, you know, ostracize him and whatever? I think it took 10 seconds for one of the rank marshals to grab this guy, put him in a combi, close the door, and he was like, what is your problem? Like, to us, the girls, he's like, what is your problem? Why are you harassing him? Blah, blah, blah. This vendor actually came with Zambia. And she's like, I didn't call big team pay Zambia, you know, like, and I'm like, it's so crazy that they were so quick to defend this guy. But if it was a girl, in Jordan's beautiful skirt here, if she were to go into 4th Street right now, in this skirt,
I'll probably get hit.
Right? And like no one will come to your defense.
No,
do you get it? Yeah.
Right. I know so many people who have been hit for wearing not even like a short skirt. Maybe the dress was too tight, and they're like, "You're showing us your whole body," and then they get hit, and then they get refused transport. And then the list goes on.
Yeah.
It's just sad. I think it's really just sad, and I think. I was watching a video on YouTube about this guy who was saying that rape culture doesn't exist and it's just a hoax, and the statistics show that rape culture doesn't exist. But I think that in itself, there are a lot of women who don't report that they've been sexually assaulted or even just in a work setting. Now we haven't even dived into rape yet. We're still talking about like sexual harassment, sexual assault, rape culture. I think all of us here can say we've been sexually harassed easily, even in our workplace, you know, even in a church setting, even in a, you know, any setting, a woman,
school,
right, you're just minding your business and it just harassed, you know. So I think that's it's telling in itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are talking about rape culture, and sexual assault, and we're just having a basic conversation about what that is, what that means to us from our different perspectives and contexts. And so I wanted to ask you guys what are some things that you know about rape culture and rapism when it comes to police, the justice system, law, you know. Is there anything you can share with us?
Okay, so in the context of rape culture, obviously.
Yes, and rape and sexual assault.
My experience is that the rape culture starts right from the beginning. So how the referral pathway looks like is you report to the police. The police are responsible to take you to adult rape clinic or family support. And then the police are also then responsible for forwarding your docket to prosecution, right? Should you decide to, which most likely, right? But right from the beginning, sometimes you have the wrong questioning of survivors. You know, the process is so cumbersome. Like what you're saying, like, oh, where were you? Who were you with? What were they saying? There was this one case of this lady, I think she was about 70 years old, in Mavuku, and she tried to go to report to the police station, and they were like, you're lying. Like, word for word, they said, like, who would want to, like, rape an old woman like you? And it's almost as if, like, rape is about attraction. It's actually about the sex, when it's really just about power and dominance of women's bodies. So that was really crazy to me hearing that story. But then you go on into, like, the actual investigation, and the police will tell you, okay, look, you need to come and pick us up because we don't have fuel and we don't have money to go look for this person. And also, we don't know what they look like, but I don't have data on my WhatsApp for you to send me the picture of this person. So you have to come and get me so we can go and arrest the person who has raped you, the person who has violated you. From there, now you're going to prosecution, where now the problem is so much bigger, because now it's not just about the patriarchy, and it's not just about the harmful societal perceptions. It's about the fact that the state does not have money. The prisons are overcrowded. So now you're going to go out on bail, even though the Criminal Procedure Act says that sexual offenses are, like, should lean towards no bail. Do you know what I mean? But now you're going free because the prisons are full So now if you are in the community or you're in the family, because most people are raped by people they know, now you're seeing this person every day. You know you're supposed to go to court maybe 3 weeks from now, and you're seeing this person every day. You still have different investigation officers asking you, even though you're only supposed to be assigned one. You're being asked to go to court. They're postponing every time. This trial is taking 7 months. You don't have the money. There's a lockdown, so there's police everywhere. Prices for transportation have gone up. Zupka's hard to get. So the entire process is just working against these people that want to report. And in the end, no one wants to trust the formal justice system. No one wants to go and be like, oh, look, this is what happened to me. I was assaulted. It's like, you know what? I'm going to sit at my house and I'm going to figure it out. And it affects your mental health. And it affects the whole system, because that's one less person that's been helped. And that's like one more case to rape culture, like one more win for the for the patriarchy.
Right, I hear what you're saying, and I think even seeing things like, you know, the MDC3, that's something that would discourage anyone from wanting to step forward, you know, because there was no due process. These women were not given their rights as anyone who is accusing anyone of anything, you know. So I think no one would want to. I wouldn't. You know, just looking at it from the perspective of someone who is part of the LGBTQIA plus community. The first thing when you step into, you know, the police station is it's going to become a situation of, oh, so you're, you know, from these communities, you're like this. Then it becomes also, if it's, let's say it was 2 men having sex and one of them was raped by their partner, they're not going to deal with the rape at hand.
They're going to deal with the fact that you...
Oh, so you 2 men were having sex and that's what you guys were doing, you know? That's, no one is going to step forward, especially someone in the LGBTQI plus community. Like, they are not going to do that.
Or sex workers.
Right. So these, going back to this thing of saying statistical evidence is not accurate. People are saying, oh, we don't have enough statistics. How many people in the LGBTQIA plus community will never ever step forward, because that means coming out. That means revealing their identity. That means, you know, that's a whole other layer to this whole conversation that people don't seem to dive into. There's so many marginalized communities, you know, that people don't want to dive into because, you know, people with disabilities. They're gonna say, how are you even raped?
Why do they want to rape you?
Right, why would they rape you? I love that you brought that up. That it becomes a thing of like, you're not even attractive enough to be raped. That's disgusting. I can't even believe you say that.
And also for me, the other thing is like victim friendly units are supposed to be at every police station. I remember I was mugged last year, and when I went to report the case with my sister, take note, this is right after, you know, the assault happened, right? I'm traumatized, I'm crying, I'm shaking. I get to the police station and about 4 male officers crowd around me and they're like,
Huh?
and I'm like, in no world or in no space, in no time, in no situation should a female who's just been assaulted, you don't know what kind of assault it was, should I ever have to explain my story to 4 men? I've just been assaulted by 6 men. Then 4 men come and crowd me and ask me, oh, did they touch you? Did they, like, these aren't questions that you're supposed to ask. And that got me so frustrated, because in my mind I was like, if I was raped, I wouldn't tell you. Like, because already you've just made me feel a certain type of way about my experience. So now, and I was so angry, like my anger now even was removed from my experience of being mugged and whatever. Now I was just angry at these officers. I was like, is that something that you ask someone? And are you the people to ask someone who's just had an experience? Should I not be taken into a private room and then like asked by someone, you know, a female, even asked like, do you want to talk to a female or a male, you know, that whole process. And like the fact that didn't happen, I was like, how many people then come in to report cases of rape? And just from that first experience, that first encounter, the way the officer is in a mood, they're like, "Chi, alright, yeah, boy, chi," you know, that whole experience then deters someone from even wanting to make the effort to, you know, report their case and things like that.
Right.
I'm glad that you actually mentioned the VFU. They are actually at every police station. And one of the things that we are lacking, I think, is enough education, even in terms of how it then affects the judiciary system. Because when you get to a police station, some of the things that they're supposed to actually ask you, the first thing is, when did this happen? Because as long as a rape is still within 72 hours, they are supposed to take you to a medical facility. No, the police does not do that. They're not medical officers. They take you to government hospital, then that's where the rape kit and the filling in of the medical affidavits, and then you get your PEP, your prophylaxis for STIs, HIV. And even if you decide to walk into a hospital without going to the police first, you're supposed to access that service. If you've been raped, they don't need to ask you for a police report when it's rape, because it's such a topical issue. Not everyone, like what she was saying, I've never talked about my first sexual encounter with anyone, so why should my first conversation about sex be in front of a room full of people I don't know, strangers, and they're terrorizing me? I'm already traumatized, because at the end of the day, a sexual encounter happened which I did not consent to, yet it was sex, and it doesn't change because I've been violated. It doesn't mean now I'm an open book. I've never spoken about sex openly, consensual sex, and now you're terrorizing me because I've been violated. So now you think you have the right to just say those things. So it's also the education part. We need to know what happens. What are my rights as a person? If I'm violated, if I get into a police station, who do I ask for? What questions are they supposed to ask me? And what are they? Because we've heard cases of survivors that come through and say, oh, the police officer wanted to do a medical examination. No, they're not supposed to do that. They're not supposed to even open anything. All they're supposed to do is rush you to a medical facility, and everything else is done there. So there you've got trained counselors who know how are they going to talk to you. If you're not ready to talk, they give you enough time. At least those channels, if we speak so often about them, then some other gaps that are there in our system, we can then now just talk about them and say, oh, okay, this is what happened. Because a lot of things happen and end at, I went to the police and they laughed at me, because probably the person who received you was not even a VFU officer, so they have no knowledge whatsoever of how to handle such cases. So, okay, well, I get into too much with this topic, but I guess, it's that issue of people rushing to their nearest clinic. I think it needs to be emphasized, so that you can always seek justice. The statute of limitation on rape cases is 20 years in Zimbabwe. So you can always open your docket 5 years later if you're ready. Though we don't encourage that, because we also want the legal system to have its timely process. But we also understand it's your sekuru who you stay with. He's your sole guardian. He provides for you. And he tells you, you report this, it's the end of your life. And you have, so we know there's intimidation in that as well.
Or your husband.
You see, so until you're ready, you can always report, but your health first, it matters, and you have to get some sort of help.
Right. I think it's a great place for us to just quickly dive into respectability, like we had brought up in the beginning, respectability politics, because I was speaking just now about marginalized communities. I think another important marginalized community is sex workers. And a lot of sex workers obviously face rape. They probably face rape at the highest rate because of the work that they do, because a lot of people don't believe that a sex worker can be raped. I've actually been having these kinds of conversations with different people. And what most people seem to come to is, how can a sex worker be raped if that's their job? You know, but consent always comes into play. If I am consenting to this amount of money to complete this task sexually, that's all that I'm going to do, you know. But some women, they will, or men, there's a lot of male sex workers. Some of them, these sex workers will do the job, and then once they finish, they don't get paid. That is a form of assault. That is rape, because we had agreed to something and both sides of the agreement weren't fulfilled. It's a form of breaking consent, you know. So I think let's just unpack that. I don't know if you guys are willing to unpack
it's a very interesting topic, actually. I remember one question that I always ask, especially when we go to outreach in communities, and it's always, why do we say when a child is raped or somebody that we don't expect because of what we think as a society, we say, iwo mahure ariko, like as if rape is about just a person who had a sexual edge.
Right.
It's literally about power, it's about control, it's about humiliation. Someone just wants to take advantage of someone. So my nature of work, whether it's a sex worker or whoever, does not really matter. The fact is, was there consent? Did I consent to this? Because a lot of those guys then, they experience, I'm glad on some of the issues that you mentioned, but some of them is a common one that they go through is stilting.
Yes.
Where the client removes the condom during the act, and then, but the agreement was, we are going to have sex on the condition that you're using protection.
Right.
And then, or they agree to certain things, and then you hear, I don't know, but it's called what, BDSM? Like
they start hitting you,
start hitting them, and
tying
they start abusing, tying them up. Some of them, they take them in as sex slaves just because somebody is in that sort of work. Doesn't mean they're actually consenting. Because I'm saying, this is my client, and this is how much they're going to pay, and we're going to do this. These are two consenting adults.
Yes.
But as long as there is no consent, it doesn't matter. Everything else, you might then look at, was this person a sex worker? It does not say anything.
Right.
Was there consent? If it's a no, it was rape.
Right.
And I think we need to emphasize that, because our society sort of says, oh, if someone is not of a moral standing that I deem to be correct,
moral high ground, right?
Then it means that I can then say they deserve to be raped, they deserve to be assaulted.
Right.
But that is not the case. We are enabling.
I can assault them and be sure that they're not going to speak up about
Right.
it.
Right. I know that for a fact. In my own case, I'm going to speak from my own experience. The person, this is one of the people I've been sexually assaulted on multiple occasions, but this is someone who was my friend, who knew a lot about me. We had a lot of conversations, and he took advantage of the fact that he knew I would never ever bring it up to anyone. Because obviously people wouldn't believe me, first of all, because of who he is, his standing, what he does, you know. The way that he also presents himself, people would be like, there's no way. Like, there's no way that this person would do that with you, of all people, you know. So it was a case of him using that to, the whole time before it happened, he like primed me into this place where he kind of made it seem like I was he kept saying, you're perfect for me, you're the only person, like he kept saying, I would never get with anyone, but I would get with you, Jordan. Like, in the LGBTQI plus community, I would never get with like a man, I would never, but I would get with you because you're trans, and I would get with you because of this and this and this and this. And so he kept like bringing up all these things like to prime me, and then it happened, and then I didn't know it was sexual assault until I spoke to one of my friends who was like, you were raped. Like, you were raped. But I thought because I had done all these other things, like in foreplay or throughout our time together that day, like let's say I engaged in like giving him like a blowjob during that day, or I did something else, In my mind, I thought, you know, I think by doing all those other things, I consented to having sex. Right, but until I told someone and someone was like, no, you were raped.
Consent to
I
one
didn't
thing
even
doesn't
think that
mean to
Exactly.
Right, I didn't even associate the idea of rape with myself. I've heard a lot of people say that they don't associate rape with themselves because in a lot of our minds it's this dirty act, and it can't be something that can ever happen to me, you know. And I think a lot of women don't know that they've been raped.
And a lot of men don't understand what consent means.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's where it becomes problematic.
Right.
And you also have like, you know, I know of this guy who was very popular. Like, there's a time on Twitter when people were talking about naming and shaming their rapists, and this guy's name popped up, and I know him, and a friend of mine knows him. So I told my friend, I was like, girl, you need to stop hanging out with this dude. He's literally just been named and shamed on Twitter. And she's like, no, there's no way. And I'd heard so many other stories about like him raping girls and like, you know, drugging them and things like that. And I was like, dude, like, this is like the last, like, this actually makes it official that this dude is actually a known rapist. You need to like distance yourself from him. And
Right.
like my friend refused to listen to me, and it's only like eventually when she heard from another guy who was this guy's friend, who also knew that his friend was a rapist, who finally like confirmed, like, yeah, no, like we know these stories, like this is what he does.
People
And I'm
never
like-
believe that someone is a
Right,
rapist.
right.
Like someone they know. They
Yeah.
believe that rapists are there. Like,
Yeah.
okay, people rape, but until it hits closer to home, then it's no, it can't be someone I know. No,
Yeah.
it's over there, it's
Right.
next door, it's happening elsewhere, but not in my
Yeah.
court. And that's very sad because worldwide, 75% of survivors are actually perpetrated by people they know.
Yeah.
It's not strangers, as people really think. It's well, acquaintances, it's my relative, it's my boyfriend.
Right,
It's-
intimate partner violence is more prevalent than like a normal situation because it's easier access. It's easier for someone to take advantage of you when they know you.
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
have that intimacy,
Yeah,
that
you have that
pre-established
trust.
intimacy. Right. So I just think it's a shame that people even the idea that people get protected in our society, rapists are protected, they kept cushioned by their social circles. Why would anyone want to come out? I know I would never want to come out and try to even go to the court to try this case. I will lose. There's nothing, and I will just be re-traumatized all over again.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
we don't hear enough like success stories of like, you know, someone actually got arrested for rape and things like that. Like I think there are not enough of those stories being told, and that's why a lot of people don't want to talk about the experience. To
Right.
them, to a guy that's consent to a guy, and then when he rapes you, and then now as a girl you come and you're like, nah, but you like I was violated. I feel like you raped me, and like then it now becomes this whole thing about, you know, he said she said type of
Right.
situation.
Okay, so we've been going on and on about this topic, but because of the way that our time constraints are set up, we can't give it to you all at once. We want you to keep coming back for more because, you know, this is the way that things work, you know?
Yes.
So please come back and join the conversation. This is only part 1. We do have a part 2 for you in store.
Yes.
It's gonna come next week and you will be blessed, gifted, and, you know, we will just put that on to you, you know. So come through, it will be at your disposal. But if you would like to comment in the comment section of this one as well, share your thoughts, share it with people. Feel free to follow these lovely ladies on their
Yes,
social media.
yes.
And I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. Reach out to Adult Rape Clinic if you would like to interact with their resources and all that they have to offer you if you are someone that has been a victim of sexual assault or rape, or if you know someone that has been a victim, they can help you. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for season 2 of Her Hour. We are so glad to have you guys back.
Yes.
We love you, Our Rangers. And if you're a new Our Ranger, we love you even more. So don't forget to like and subscribe to all of our socials. Her Hour, they're on the page right now. Mine, Vera's,
Yes.
theirs, they all should have been displayed on the screen by now. So thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate you guys so much. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
Bye.
Lights flash, click.
Tick, strike up, pose.
Oh, swag, drippy, drippy, click, strike up, pose.